to amend the bill.
Senator Garrett is recognized to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to offer an amendment that addresses a critical challenge facing North Carolina's small business community. As we speak, new federal tariffs are driving up costs for small businesses across our state that form the backbone of our economy. These are not abstract policy discussions. These are real costs hitting real North Carolina entrepreneurs who are already operating on thin margins. This amendment creates a targeted tax credit for small businesses headquartered right here in North Carolina that are experiencing significant cost increases due to these tariffs. We're talking about businesses with less than 100 employees, the local retailers, manufacturers, and service providers that employ our neighbors and strengthen our communities. This credit is modest but meaningful, up to $25,000 for businesses facing cost increases of at least 10% due to qualifying tariffs. This is not about picking winners and losers. It's about providing a lifeline to the small businesses that did not have a seat at the table when these federal trade policies were crafted. North Carolina has always prided itself on being business friendly. When external forces beyond our control threaten the viability of our homegrown companies, we have a duty to act. This amendment ensures that North Carolina small businesses can weather this storm and continue creating jobs and opportunity in every corner of our state. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment and stand with North Carolina's small business community. Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Daniel, for what purpose do you rise?
I move that Amendment 2 do lie upon the table.
Second.
Senator Daniel moves that Amendment Number 2 do lay upon the table, seconded by Senator Galey. This is a non-debatable motion. The question before the body is a motion to lay Amendment Number 2 to House Bill 388 on the table. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. Senator Daniel moves that Amendment Number 2 lay upon the table, seconded by Senator Galey. This is a non-debatable motion. Senator Lowe? Aye. 29.
Madam President.
Senator Blue, for what purpose do you rise?
Change my vote to no.
Change your vote from yes to no. Senator Lowe, for what purpose do you rise?
Change my vote to no.
To no. Senator Mayfield, for what purpose do you rise?
Ditto. Change my vote to no.
From yes to no. 29. So the final count is 26 in the affirmative, 15 in the negative. Amendment Number 2 will lay upon the table, and we're back on the bill. Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, the question before the Senate is a passage of House Bill 388 on its second reading. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. Is there further discussion or debate? Senator Lowe? Lowe, aye. Senator Rabin? Rabin, aye. 41 having voted in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. House Bill 388 passes its second reading and, without objection, Senator Daniel. The objection has been, will remain on the calendar. Lowe, aye. Senator Rabin? Rabin, aye. House Bill 549, the clerk will read.
House Bill 549, clarify powers of state auditor.
Senator Overcash is recognized to explain the bill.
Members, this is the Office of State Auditor Agency bill, and I hope you'll vote for it. Thank you.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, the question before the Senate is a passage of House Bill 549 on its second reading. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none. Senator Lowe? Lowe, no. Senator Robinson? All in favor will vote aye. Senator Robinson? No. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record. 29 having voted in the affirmative, 12 in the negative. House Bill 549 passes its second reading, and without objection, Senator Murdoch, for what purpose do you rise?
To change my vote from I don't know.
Senator Robinson? All in favor will vote aye. Senator Robinson? No. 29 having voted in the affirmative, 12 in the negative. House Bill 549 passes. 28 in the affirmative, 13 in the negative. House Bill 549 passes its second reading and, without objection, will be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, all in favor of the passage of House Bill 549 on its third reading will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 549 passes its second reading and will be sent to the House to concur with the Senate committee substitute. House Bill 576, the clerk will read.
House Bill 576, Department of Health and Human Services revisions AB.
Senator Bergen is recognized to explain the bill. House Bill 549 passes. I'm sorry, that's not correct. We have already explained the bill last time, so now we are back on Senator Grafstein's second amendment number 2.
Thank you,
Grafstein
Madam
is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. That was a lot louder than I thought it was going to be. So the amendment that I offered, I think it was on Tuesday, was meant to further protect children like this bill, like the DHHS agency bill does, by passing the House version of House Bill 805, which passed the House unanimously. And my purpose in doing that was to give us a chance to pass this important legislation without it getting bogged down in the culture war issues and disputes with the House and basically the political mayhem that's been prevalent of late. As I told Senator Bergen on Tuesday, the intent in running the amendment was not to interrupt the progress of this bill. But that part was not my decision. That's a decision that those in the majority made when it was obvious that there was no legitimate basis for defeating the amendment, and because tabling it would mean that it would be impossible to run the current version of House Bill 805. That's become sort of the latest culture war vehicle. So, if this were a game, it was checkmate, and we just flipped the table over and started again. So the result was that the agency has had to scramble because there are provisions, as I understand it, in the bill that they need to have passed by June 30th that will help ensure that people who are applying for Medicaid can continue to qualify through the federal marketplace, and that's about to expire. So it's important that we pass this bill, and I support the passage of this bill. It's important to the workload of the people at DSS. It's important to the people of the state. I will add that the other day in Judiciary, when House Bill 805 was coming through, Senator Batch asked again to separate out the H05 or the 805 clean version from the additional pieces that were being added to it. And I was really struck by what Senator Newton said in response, because he said, "You know how it works around here." And he wasn't wrong, right? In other words, what he was saying essentially was, the politics are what prevail. It made sense to just pass a clean bill, but the politics will prevail. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to matter who might get hurt. It doesn't seem to matter what's fair. It doesn't really seem to matter that we might be putting people's access to health care at risk. But, I would just want to get up and say it doesn't have to be this way. And I know that sounds naive, and I'm in my second term, and I'm supposed to know better by now. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can just get a good bill from the House and pass it. That's allowed. We can do that and fight the things we want to fight. So, although I didn't know the bill was going to be displaced, I just want to be really crystal clear that what happened on Tuesday was a political decision that was made by the majority. But I am willing to withdraw my amendment, Madam President, and I will ask to withdraw my amendment if that's what it takes to move this bill, because as much as I love a good game, this is important to the people. It's important to DHHS. It's important to our local DSS offices, and we need to ensure that it passes. So with that, Madam President, I would ask to withdraw my amendment.
Madam President.
Senator Berger, for what purpose do you rise?
I move that House Bill 576 be moved to Tuesday's calendar.
Without objection, so ordered. House Bill 696, the clerk will read.
House Bill 696, Health Care Practitioners Transparency Act.
Senator Galey is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill requires that all advertisement for health care practitioners identify the type of license, certification, or registration held by the practitioner. If a person is not licensed to practice medicine, they would not be able to use the title denoting a physician's specialty. Also, this bill adds a definition for the advanced practice, registered nurse to the Nursing Practice Act. I ask for your support.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, the question before the Senate is the passage of House Bill 696 on its second reading. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. Senator Applewhite? Aye. 41 having voted in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. House Bill 696 passes its second reading and, without objection, will be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, all in favor of the passage of House Bill 696 on its third reading will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 696 passes its third reading and will be sent to the House to concur with the Senate committee substitute. House Bill 762, the clerk will read.
House Bill 762, Modernize NC SAFE Act, Second Mortgage Fee Act.
Senator Craven is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, this bill makes various changes to our residential mortgage laws to better align with federal law.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, the question before the Senate is the passage of House Bill 762 on its second reading. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. (41) having voted in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. House Bill 762 passes its second reading and, without objection, will be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, all in favor of the passage of House Bill 762 on its third reading will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 762 passes its third reading and will be sent to the House to concur with the Senate committee substitute. House Bill 832, the clerk will read.
House Bill 832, Education Omnibus.
Senator Lee is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. This omnibus has a number of provisions that are in a number of different bills that are floating around in the House and the Senate. And to that end, I've been asked by LAD to submit a technical amendment depending on which one of those bills actually passes the first time, because we may have multiple provisions that pass in multiple bills. So if I could hand this amendment up. And again, this is a technical amendment with multiple provisions.
Let's let the clerk read it. Then I'm going to ask you to explain. The clerk will read.
Senator Lee moves to amend the bill.
Senator Lee is recognized to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, just a technical amendment.
Is there further discussion or debate on amendment number 1? Is it on the dashboard? Okay. Hearing none, the question before the body is the adoption of amendment number 1 to House Bill 832. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. (41) having voted in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Amendment number 1 is adopted, and we're back on the bill. Senator Lee is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to just kind of run through some of these provisions, and if there are questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Auto enrollment in advanced ELA courses, a limited license to a permanent license under certain conditions, allowing for school contracted health services, a bill that we passed 48-0 here, some certain exceptions for the advanced teaching roles, districts as far as student-teacher ratios, revising the school safety grant program, which was a House bill that passed 106-0, published central office employee information, which passed the House 67-38, DPI to continue providing certain information reporting platform to charters for their initial years, which passed in the House budget, residency licenses for non-public EC teachers, extend reversion date of school safety funds, the changes to the Charter School Review Board, which I will say specifically provides various changes to their role, clarifies that class rank can be removed from official transcripts, and directs the executive director to report to the CSRB. Certain DPI technical adjustments, various changes requested by DPI, and to shift the CEP timeline, and to establish standards for agreements between constituent institutions of UNC and LEAs. And the two provisions that you heard if you were in education were relating to changes from the Spark NC and renewal school system, primarily technical changes with dates and changing Spark NC from being called a pilot to a program. With that, I hope you'll support the bill.
Senator Robinson, for what purpose do you rise?
To ask Senator Lee a question.
Senator Lee, do you yield?
I yield.
He yields.
Senator Lee, does this include the provisions regarding the authority of the superintendent regarding charter schools?
Madam President?
You have the floor to answer.
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but I think this provides that the CSRB, the Charter Review School Board, Review Board, has to adopt a rule for the school board, state school board, to move forward.
Adopt a rule. Okay.
Senator Robinson, do you want to ask another
Yes.
question? You have the floor.
Yes, Madam Chair.
If he yields. Do you
Present.
yield, Senator Lee?
I yield.
He yields. You may ask.
Okay, I'll specifically ask in education, I believe, the requirement that the superintendent, the review board, Charter School Review Board, has the authority to, I can't remember.
Madam President, may I?
Senator Lee, you have the floor.
I think I understand what you're asking.
Okay.
I think you're talking about Section 3A of the bill, where it says the executive director of the charter school, Office of Charter Schools, shall report to the CSRB. I think that's what you're probably referring to.
Yes. And then this changes. It changes the authority of the superintendent to the review board. Is that right? In terms of he has to report, but he doesn't have the authority to review.
Senator Lee, you may answer.
I think the issue with regard to the superintendent is that previously the executive director would report to the superintendent.
Yes.
And now the North Carolina Office of Charter Schools, the executive director will report to the review board. If that's the issue I think you're asking about.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Do you have another question?
No, I want to comment on that provision.
You may speak on the bill.
Okay. The issue is that previously the superintendent has had the authority to review and to receive whatever. What am I trying to say? What's your name, Jackson? Well, the concern I have is that it takes the authority away from the superintendent and removes it to the review board. And that's usurping. And I think you all received a note and concern from the superintendent of education regarding moving that authority away from him. And then, as a matter of fact, he has to report on the same. And I think that, what it means is that a person has to report, has to oversee, yet he doesn't have the authority to make the changes or whatever. Does that make sense? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there further discussion or debate? Senator Chitlick, for what purpose do you rise?
To speak to the bill.
You have the floor to speak to the bill.
Thank you. I share Senator Robinson's concerns about the charter school review board provisions in this bill. And specifically, I have constitutional concerns with it, and also I have a concern that this empowers our lowest performing charter schools, which are, I don't think, good for charter schools, good for students, or good for North Carolina. So I think the rest of the bill is really wonderful and extraordinary, and I commend Senator Lee and the education chairs for putting it together. And I have to be honest that it breaks my heart a little bit to vote against this bill, but I wanted to explain why I'll be doing that. Thank you.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, the question before the body is the passage of House Bill 832 on its second reading. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. (32) having voted in the affirmative, 9 in the negative. House Bill 832 passes its second reading and, without objection, will be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, all in favor of the passage of House Bill 832 on its third reading will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 832 passes its third reading and, with the amendment engrossed, will be sent to the House to concur with the Senate committee substitute. House Bill 928, the clerk will read.
House Bill 928, allow PTS in school concussion protocol.
Senator Sawrey is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill simply adds physical therapists to the list of providers who can assess and clear a student athlete to return to play after a suspected concussion. Passed Senate Health and Senate Rules unanimously. I believe it has widespread support in the House. Would appreciate your support and glad to answer any questions.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, the question before the Senate is a passage of House Bill 928 on its second reading. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. (41) having voted in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. House Bill 928 passes its second reading and, without objection, will be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, all in favor of the passage of House Bill 928 on its third reading will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 928 passes its third reading and will be enrolled and sent to the governor. House Bill 975, the clerk will read.
House Bill 975, EMS personnel provisions.
Senator Daniel is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, this bill has 2 small provisions for the EMS. I would note that its sponsor is Representative Paul Scott, who took the place of former Speaker Tim Moore. So I would like to help Representative Scott get his first bill across the finish line. Part 1 of the bill directs, it allows emergency medical personnel to carry pepper spray. This is mostly because when EMS personnel encounter canines, they may need to use pepper spray to gain entry into the house where they're rendering aid. And the second part allows EMS personnel to provide emergency medical aid to injured police canine or search and rescue dogs. And so I ask for your support of this bill.
Is there further discussion or debate? Senator Smith, for what purpose do you rise?
I would like to ask a question to the bill sponsor, or the one who's carrying the bill right now.
Senator
please.
Daniel, do you yield?
I yield.
He yields.
Just to make sure I'm clear, so this pepper spray or tear gas that I see in here, this is only to be used for animals and not for the people they're caring for?
No, this allows the EMS personnel to carry pepper spray. I understand that the rationale that they've put forward is that for when they encounter unfriendly dogs. I don't think the bill limits it to that use.
Follow up.
Do you yield for a follow-up, Senator Daniel?
I yield.
He yields.
So I see it says may require them to take training. So they have pepper spray if this bill passes without proper training at all? and it could possibly be used on the people they're serving? That's what we're saying? Because, I read the bill. It didn't say mandatory. It said may require. Can you speak to that, or they didn't share that with you?
I think you're correct, though I've never known the use of pepper spray to require a lot of training, personally.
Okay, let me please just speak.
Do you want to speak to the bill, Senator Smith?
Yes.
You have the floor.
Okay. It's a good thing that we have people serving and not being police officers, because they are trained in using pepper spray. They are trained in making sure they use this properly. I think that we should leave the pepper spray and the weapons up to the police. When you are going to take care of someone, this makes it a very volatile situation to now put in the hands of the person who's taking care of individuals to use pepper spray. Now, when we start thinking about animals, and if there's a restriction, that's one thing. But now this is just open to be used on people that we're supposed to be taking care of. I don't see that as beneficial at all when we have our police, and that's what their job is. And so I don't think we should be turning our EMS personnel into police and then having them to do that without training, especially considering that our police go through extensive training where they themselves have to be pepper sprayed so they can understand what that's like. And so I'm opposed to this bill because I don't think it was thought through. And I know we're trying to help people pass their first bill, but I think it should be passed with much more research and stats that say it's needed. Thank you so much. Please vote no on HB 975.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, the question before the Senate is the passage of House Bill 975 on its second reading. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. "37 having voted in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. House Bill 975 passes its second reading and, without objection, will be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, all in favor of the passage of House Bill 975 on its third reading will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 975 passes its third reading and will be sent to the House to concur with the Senate committee substitute. Third reading, House Bill 442. The clerk will read.
House Bill 442, flounder, red snapper season, and shrimp trawl.
Senator Craven is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, we had a very spirited debate on this yesterday. I would like to commend Senator Jackson for having the compensation package related to this bill in finance today, and I would implore you just to vote yes to ensure that we are protecting our inland fisheries for the next generation. Thank you.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, the question before the Senate is the passage of House Bill 442 on its third reading. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. "39 having voted in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. House Bill 442 passes its third reading and will be sent to the House to concur with the Senate committee substitute.
Madam President.
Senator Rabin, for what purpose do you rise?
Motion, please.
You have the floor for a motion.
Move to suspend the rules to the end that staff be allowed on the floor for the concurrence votes.
Without objection, so ordered. For concurrence, Senate Bill 266, the clerk will read.
Senate Bill 266, the Power Bill Reduction Act.
Senator Moffitt is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, the motion would be to concur with the House changes to Senate Bill 266. Earlier this session, Senator Berger advanced Senate Bill 261, titled the Energy Security and Affordable Act. We had robust debate on this floor in this chamber regarding the provisions of that bill. It cleared on a strong bipartisan vote. It went to the House. The House has returned to us the Power Bill Reduction Act in Senate Bill 266. Section 1 of both bills is the same. It eliminates the interim date for carbon reduction, but it also maintains the 2050 goal. Section 2 modifies the construction work in progress area. It clarifies that an expedited QIP is for financing cost only. The Utilities Commission has always interpreted it that way, but this actually fixes this in statute, and they will only approve this if the QIP actually produces a savings to the ratepayers. It also includes in Section 2 language addressing cost recovery in the unlikely event of cancellation of facility construction. This really speaks to some of the failures in other states and what do you do with those costs if they've been incurred by the utility. And this allows the Utility Commission to actually look at those requests, and if it's reasonable and prudent, then they can make a decision on what impact that would have on the rates themselves. Section 3 is regarding the fuel cost recovery modifications. This really speaks to the demand programs where you have industrial users that have a very sophisticated approach to managing demand in partnership with the utilities to allow the grid to function more efficiently. And by incentivizing this type of behavior, it allows all classes to be treated fairly when it comes to actual use of electricity. Section 4 addresses performance-based regulation changes, and Section